Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the One Piece review. This time we're covering manga chapter 1182. So I feel like with this chapter we went from Oda focusing on Loki and Imu possibly giving us Luffy in this chapter to all of a sudden Oda going back and trying to give some consolation prize to the Zoro and Sanji fans because they wouldn't stop bickering on and on, going back and forth about who took the L worst against Imu. So Oda says, you know what, I'm going to have a compromise here. So we're going to bring back the Holy Knights just for Zoro and Sanji to get some shine back. Because really, what else is this plot point here for? The Holy Knights, they're not going to succeed in kidnapping the youth, the future generation of Elbaph. So it just feels like counterproductive in my opinion, but it's the direction that Oda's going in. But I will say, with the reveal of a certain rain god, or rain goddess, depending on how you look at it, it does make you wonder if Oda's actually introducing us, revealing something new or that we didn't know about, or there's something else in the One Piece world that he's trying to connect this to. And I'll get into my reasons why I think this, but I will say Oda's kind of stretching this out with that Luffy kind of getting into the mix with Imu. I guess he needs the right and left wing to actually get some shine before Luffy steps back up to take on Imu. We know how this is ending, so as far as like for Loki is concerned, but Oda's just trying to drag this on. I will say, despite the fact that the previous chapter was like pretty much bare bones because it was focused on nothing but Loki and Imu, this chapter had a whole lot going on, a lot more going on. We're speaking of a whole lot going on. We've got a cover page with a cover request with Fujitora on eating a bowl of udon being prepared by a tanuki and a fox. Speaking of which, we start off the chapter with Loki and Imu, because Imu was Imu's been embedded into the tree, or the extrasil. That's pretty much the Elbaph country at this point. He's pretty much embedded, but this motherfucker's still got a smile on his face. And Loki, once again, pointing out what I already mentioned. And I also brought up the fact that it's going to be easier for Oda to draw around this fight if Oda has Loki unleash some type of hybrid form, because you get the best of both worlds. Plus, you don't have to draw in something that's so big in scale that could fight against Imu. But Loki's pointing out his form fully because obviously he's way too damn big. So obviously there needs to be a compromise there. Then we get some dialogue from Imu, and with a smile on his face, he's saying, "To think thou would meet again in this world, traitor." And he's talking about Rataskir. So that kind of like came out of left field, but I guess it makes sense. So because it goes on to say, "Ragnir, thou art, as I remember, thee waiting for all this time for a new master," which we knew due to the backstory. But is Imu implying that he was actually, Ragnir was actually the weapon of Imu, or is it something else going on here? But then again, there's something about Elbaph having the D in its name that we need some elaboration on, and maybe what we got with Robin, maybe that'll lead to some. Maybe that's where it's leading. I'll get to that shortly, but yeah, there's definitely some lore when it comes to Ragnir and Imu. So outside of that, and it makes sense given the Harley mural drawing that we saw, and the fact that we saw what looked to be Zunisha and Imu on top of it. So, and we know Zunisha committed a crime. So it wouldn't be surprising if Ragnir was actually the weapon of Imu before he ended up waiting for somebody else to take over, and that'd be Loki. But then we get into an exchange between Loki and Rataskir providing some combo attack. Got Rataskir providing the ice, or I guess the snow in this case, to charge up, and then you got Loki unleashing a barrage, a Ragnar 5 arrow barrage attack. Although Imu was able to block it with his Omen attack he calls it Nova Eclipse, which looks pretty badass, honestly. And one of the attacks actually catches Loki, and it looks like the right wing of Loki actually gets hit by one of the Omen attacks as Loki's trying to land an attack on Imu. So that causes mobility issues for Loki right off the bat unless he reverts to normal, but that didn't go so well for him last time. So it ends in a stalemate, and we cut to Bonnie and Lilf, and Lilf acting motherly, saying to Bonnie, "Don't go off on ahead." And Bonnie's like, no way, I'm not going to run the fade with that guy. So at least Bonnie's got the smarts to realise, yeah, I'm not getting anywhere close to that. I do like the fact that Luffy's taking on more of a responsible role here, though I do have to wonder if it's leading to somewhere. So she's like, damn right, it's my job to look after you now. Then Luffy goes on to say he clearly outranks all the knights here, but he's not one of the 5 elders. So at least she's actually kind of aware due to Stella's inner monologuing. As this is going on, Sanji wakes back up and Sanji's trying to get back into the fray. But Bonnie's like, no, because you're still injured. But Sanji's thinking about what went down with St. Gillingham, because Sanji tanked the attack from Ibu, but as we come to find out, so did Zoro, and he's back in action too. So again, there's no back and forth here. They both took the L, and they're both back in the game. St. Gillingham lets Sanji know through this that, he's coming back he's going to like finish the job he started by capturing the kids of Elbaph. So here we go again with this plot point. So again, this just gives Zoro and Sanji something to do before Luffy inevitably comes into the picture for the final fight with Emu. So Sanji goes skywalking off to St. Gillingham's location. And then we cut to my favourite part of the entire chapter. While it was very brief, we go to the Owl Library and finally we get to see Sol and Robin. What we come to find out is they go through a back door that apparently leads to an underground passage. And if you look at the panel, it's looking like the underground passage is inside the tree. I'll get to that in a second, but they walk into a room where they're greeted by Biblu, who apparently recovered the books from O'Hara. Wow, how convenient. And brought them into this room for Robin and Sol to find. Robin's all appreciative, but Sol's like, wow, that's kind of sus from you. You're kind of more of a mystery than I reckon. And Biblu has this sus looking expression on his face, so I don't know what that's about. But what I will say is, now with the books of O'Hara being in their possession again, with Oda going out of his way to have Biblu recovered them, there has to have a purpose for that. Otherwise, Oda's not going to waste his time. After all the talk he said about amping up the pacing, this has to lead into the finale. And maybe what we also find out, because they're in an underground passageway inside the tree, despite the fact that I called this, like, from the beginning, gee, I wonder what else could be in this underground passageway as connected to the ancient past. So we'll find out. I'm not going to mention it right now. When it happens, I'll let you know. Then we go to the Western Village, the Sea Cloud port, where we got the rainbow entrance. And apparently St. Summers has managed to scoop up a giant ship from out of nowhere. Going to use that to transport the kids. And St. Summers has got even more of an ego boost, because now he's referring to himself as Super Summers, so he thinks he's Super Saiyan. We'll see how well that goes for him in the next chapter. But then we go to Chopper, who has reattached Gerd's fingers back to normal. So, I mean, gee, go figure. So the Doctor is patching up the Doctor by reattaching her fingers, but she can't do anything because of this. We do kind of get a wholesome moment between Gerd and Rodo, because for the most part, Gerd's been kind of hostile to Rodo from the beginning. Look at the first episode, the previous episode. She thinks he's worse than Loki. Until now, she actually gives him props for actually trying to help out his brother. But we come to find out Rodo kind of has a thing for Gerd, because he's like, wants to get complimented. He has a kind of a nosebleed. We know how he is when it comes to Nami, so it's kind of interesting. He has that towards Gerd as well, which Gerd is kind of like, had a thing for Luffy at the beginning. We see Goldberg running with Zoro on, and it's cool that Zoro's acknowledging the fact that he won't be able to make his way around Elbaph by himself. So Zoro's enlisting the help from Goldberg to get around, which is smart. But then he's thinking about, he's kind of confused about Ibu's like techniques that he had to withstand. Like, but I'm like, I wouldn't bother about brainstorming that, because you're not ready for that smoke yet. So Zoro, concentrate on the Holy Knights. But then we go to the Western Village port again, back to the Rainbow and the ship. And this is where we get the hype of the Rain God, or the Rain Goddess, depending on how you look at it. We get St. Gillingham says, oops, sorry, telling Summers that I unleashed something I probably shouldn't have. I got too carried away. And St. Summers is all of a sudden like, damn you at least tell me you can control that thing. But this is what St. Gillingham says. Well, it's a dream demon, so probably. And then St. Summers is like, what's done is done. we're running out of time. Where's Gunko? Which is my question exactly. Like, where the hell is Gunko right now? Because she was freed by Ibu. We haven't seen her since. Oda's kind of low-key hiding that point. So I'm guessing that's going to come into effect whenever we see Brook or possibly Luffy again. Because like we're going to use this to like to cause collateral damage to Elbaph to get what we want. And all of a sudden you see a bunch of rain, a lot of rain, pouring down on Elbaph to the point where houses are flooding. Like this is not a joke. And all of a sudden we see water capture a group of kids, all including Colin. So obviously Ripley can't do anything about it due to her injuries. At first I was thinking maybe this is a chance for Scopper to come back into the fray, but I don't think so either. So since Oda's gone out of his way to hype him up throughout this arc. So then we get the law drop from Killingham. Those of us are born above the clouds. The idea of water falling from the heavens or from the sky is terrifying. We've always heard stories about not only the D-Clan and Nika, Joy Boy, but also a monster known as the Rain God who pelts the lower realm with water from overhead. In other words, from above the clouds, hit by rain from this rain god. I don't know about you, but the first look at this rain god, it kind of looks like a goddess, number one, but it's a dream demon grabbing a bunch of these kids, and it's also flooding the giants. I mean, they're about to drown, seriously. And then we get the caption, what I find most scary, Rain God Zaza, Demon Dream. So, I mean, this thing's like size like a mountain. So not only that, but that thing has 4 arms. So that thing's going to be busted. So I wonder how long this is going to last for. But yeah, that's kind of like introducing a new god on top of like the Sun God Nika and the D-Clans. I'll get to that in a second, but St. Killingham and St. Summers are like, get this over with, bring the kids here. Then you got Zoro and Sanji, the typical pep talk. So you got Zoro saying, hey, don't screw this up, because they see one another, and Sanji's like, right back at you, and that's how the chapter ends. So, gee, I wonder how this is going to end. But with the Rain God Zaza there being introduced, like, it's going to be interesting to see if Sanji and Zoro focus on that first, or if they try and take down Summers and St. Killingham. But at the same time, they're also nerfed right now, both being attacked by Emu. So is that a way to like hype up Zoro and Sanji even more by taking down 2 of the Holy Knights, if that happens? St. Summers and St. Killingham right now are pretty much boosted up by the omen that Emu gave to both of them. Which brings me to my other point. So St. Killingham said he wasn't planning on bringing this demon to life, but he got carried away. I'm wondering if this has to do with what Emu did and giving him a massive power boost with the omen. Clearly it was a power boost now. And I'm wondering if this is influenced by Emu. What does this mean? Is Oda alluding to something? There are instances of rain gods being deities, gods being gods across many cultures. So there is more information when it comes to rain gods. Like they have the ability to control storms, or they have ability, fertility and life, and they're able to control water supplies for agriculture and survival. Now we've already seen that it controls water just with the amount of rain that it's unleashing. So the fact that the actual rain gods are able to like pretty much control the weather, there's a lot of mystery here about where did Oda all of a sudden conjure up this demon dream, Zaza, or is this connected to somebody or something that we already know in the series? So first instinct is to tie this to Dragon, because that's been speculated for years that maybe Dragon has the ability of the devil fruit to control the weather. There are instances where that could be the case. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. But if you look at how this demon appearance comes off, the face especially kind of reminds me of Gunko a little bit because of the way it's covered. It also has a hat. So the other thing that comes to mind here is this tied to Nefertari D. Lily? Like, there has to be a reason why that became important and why Oda decided to introduce this now. And is this alluded to something about Nefertari D. Vivi? Because we know she's going to reunite with Luffy at some point. Maybe post Elbaph or maybe on Elbaph, we still don't know. Because Oda's like, he's not like rushing to end this apparently. Not at least not with him bringing Zoro and Sanji back into the game. So there's still some time for a plot twist. That could be it. But we'll have to wait and see. But right now, a lot of people are going to bring the magnifying glass out for this. But like I said, Oda's not going to introduce something new this late on in the game if it's not connected to something that we already know about. So it's the same thing with Emu. Like, yeah, it's great to find out Saint Nerona Emu, but unless it's tied to something that we already know, then at this stage of the game, we're not going to care all that much about it. So other than seeing this rain god introduced, the best part of the chapter for me was seeing Robin again, because not only because it's Robin, but also because that plot point, it looks to have a payoff here with the books of O'Hara, and more importantly, finally mentioned a plot point that I mentioned at the beginning of Elbaph since the very beginning. So we'll just have to wait and see where that goes or where that takes Robin and Soul, but obviously it's going to be important. Let me know what you guys think down below. That's going to do it for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this review, you guys know what to do. That thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys' support. Take it easy, guys. Bye.